A very good morning to everyone. My name is Prem Maheshwaran. I am a products expert of ServiceDesk Plus for the past 8 years. I welcome you all to the session 3 of this masterclass webinar series. In this webinar series, we are going to discuss about incident management and how you can manage large-scale implementations of ServiceDesk Plus. In this discussion, we are going to see features that are available in ServiceDesk Plus with which you can manage multiple sites, the configuration that allows you to build your organizational hierarchy, how you can consume the organizational hierarchy in the approval system, and also the various ways with which you can manage users and technicians of your organization. Without further delays, let us directly go into the enterprise edition of ServiceDesk Plus, which I'm going to use for this presentation, and I'll show you the features and the configuration available to do it. All right. This is an enterprise edition of ServiceDesk Plus, the on-premises model. I'm using the administrator login. So in the admin section, to import users, you have multiple options. One of the most recommended ways of bringing users into ServiceDesk Plus is configuring Windows domain with ServiceDesk Plus. To do that, go to the Discovery section, and under the Discovery section, click on Windows Domain Scan. In the Windows Domain Scan, the application will automatically identify the domains that are available in your network. Once it is picked up, you can configure the domain with the credentials and the domain controller. To configure it, edit the domain, and here you have to provide the domain controller details, the credentials that are required to read information from the domain controller. To integrate ServiceDesk Plus with Active Directory, any user's credential that has a read privilege on the domain controller is sufficient. However, we also do inventory of devices available in the domain as well as the network. The credentials that are required to scan the domain can be stored in the credential library. So we'll discuss more of it when we speak a lot about the asset management, which comes in the next webinar class. Once you have configured the domain, save, and now the details of the domain controller and the credentials that are required are saved and stored in the application. All right, now we have saved the configuration. Let's see how we can import users into the application. To bring the users from the domain, go to User section, and under the User section, go to Active Directory. And here you have got configuration with which you can import users. So click on Import Requesters, and that will give us the domain and also the information about the domain. Now, when we import users from Active Directory, we also bring the additional information of a user into ServiceDesk Plus. Information like the telephone number, job title, the department, his reporting to manager, mobile device number, site, which is fetched from the physical delivery office. So you can see more of it here in the help section, and the email address. So if you'd like to add or bring more information from Active Directory into ServiceDesk Plus, you can always use user additional fields. So these are additional fields with which you can create and store information in a user's profile. Let us quickly take a look at the user additional field. So I'm going to switch tabs. So under users, user additional field, here you can add more information about a user and bring it from Active Directory. I'm going to call it location. If you want to store the location of every user in ServiceDesk Plus, then you can make use of the additional field and store information there. All the additional fields that you have created will be available for mapping in the import section. So these are some test additional fields that I created. And in the additional field, if I update the attribute name of the Active Directory, it will fetch that information from the user's profile and update it here in the additional field. All right, now let's see how we can import users into the application. Now click on import now. That will give me the complete OU list available from my domain. Now I can choose the OUs from which I would like to import the users. If I want to import from the complete domain, all I have to do is click on the domain and click on start importing. Once that is done, it will fetch users and add it into ServiceDesk Plus. Okay, let's not worry about it. Let us quickly go into the application and see the other configuration. So this is how you can add domains and import users into ServiceDesk Plus. You can maintain multiple domains, provide the domain controller information and credentials, and import users from multiple domains. And also, once the domain is configured with ServiceDesk Plus, it also supports Active Directory authentication, which means users can log into ServiceDesk Plus, making use of their domain credentials, use self-service portal, and request for a service or report an incident. ServiceDesk Plus also supports single sign-on. Single sign-on has to be configured in the domain controller, and once it is done, users can access the URL of the application and it will directly take them into the self-service portal without having them to log into the application. And also there is a sync option available. So this new feature allows to delete accounts in ServiceDesk Plus once it is deleted in the Active Directory. If a requester account is deleted in Active Directory, it will automatically delete the requester account in ServiceDesk Plus. But for technicians, it will provide you suggestions so that you can manually delete them once the account is deleted in Active Directory. And also there is an option to provide the import schedule. So here the frequency of import of users from Active Directory can be configured. Once that is done, the application will automatically fetch new user accounts from the Active Directory and update the information in the application. This is the most recommended way, and when you are dealing with a large scale implementation with a lot of business users, this way you can bring in all of them at once into the application. All right, now you have imported the requesters into the application. By default, all the users will be added as requesters in ServiceDesk Plus. If you want to convert a user into a technician, you have to manually do it. And to do that, edit the requesters account. And here you've got an option to change a requester into technician. Now when I click on change as technician, we get few more information in the user's account. One is to associate the technician to site, and another one is to associate the technician to group. Support groups are the resolver groups or the specialist groups in ServiceDesk Plus. With support groups, you can create and store technicians in a container based on their specialization or on the tier level. So let us see a lot about support groups when we discuss and in detail the configuration of a support group. Now scroll down. In a technician's account, a role has to be provided to the technician to set his access and view privilege in the application. So these are the roles that are available that I have created. Now let us quickly take a look at the roles and see what is available there and how we can manage roles and configure it. To do that, go to the user section in admin, click on roles. So here you have a list of default roles as well as option to create custom new roles. Any user who is provided with SD admin becomes an administrator of the application. He has complete access to all the data and the configuration of ServiceDesk Plus. Likewise, there are few default roles available in the application, and the information about the role is provided next to it. Let's take the example of creating level 1 roles. So I want to create a level 1 role and assign it to all the front desk engineers. That is the case, click on add new role, provide the name as front desk engineers, and here in the access permission I've got various levels with which I can allow privileges to the user, to the technician, for various modules. My level 1 engineers are going to work only on request module. That is the case, I can provide full access to the request module, and to the problem module I can provide them view and add privilege. Likewise, I can give different access to various modules in this section. Let us take a look at the fine-grained options available for request module alone. So these are called as advanced permissions. Since request module is the most used module, we have given furthermore control on the operations of a technician that he can do in the request. So here, if you'd like to stop technicians closing a request, you can uncheck the option. So that way, technicians can only resolve a request. Closing privilege can be given to end users. SLA sets the due by time on the ticket. However, if you'd like to allow a technician to modify the due by time, override the SLA, it can be done. If you don't want your technicians to do that, you can uncheck and create a role and assign that to a technician. So there are few more options available in the advanced permission with which you can control his access and view permission. Let us save this role. All right. Now we have seen how we can bring users into ServiceDesk Plus and also to convert them into technicians. Now let us go back to the user's profile and see furthermore options that are available for a user in ServiceDesk Plus. All right, this is the user's profile. So when we import users from Active Directory, we bring their email address, phone, mobile, and there is an option to mark a user as a VIP user. Once this option is enabled, the tickets that are reported by this user will be, can be treated with higher privilege. The VIP user is given as a condition in SLAs. So any ticket that is created by a VIP user can be treated differently, and also you can provide quicker services. So that will help you to identify the executive members and the managers, and you can treat tickets from them with different priority and urgency. Now, any requester in ServiceDesk Plus can also be given the privilege to approve service requests. Once the option is enabled here, the named user will be available for configuration in the approval section. So these are the privileges that an end user gets in ServiceDesk Plus. All right. So in the beginning of this session, I explained to you about how you can deal with multiple sites in ServiceDesk Plus. Let us take a look at the sites and the configuration that are available for sites. All right. Now, first I will show you the configurations that we can see. So under organizational details, here is where you can provide the details of your organization and also the logo that has to be used in the product. Next to that, you have got operational hours, the time during which the business operates. So you can either choose to go around the clock or select the operational hours. So here I'm going to set the example at 9 and 6. So my business operates between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and also the working days can be configured. So it can be the default Monday to Friday, or you can configure to work on different days. So that way, the days that are chosen here will be considered as working days. Let us see how it impacts the operations. So the operational hours and the working days configured here has an influence on the SLA. Let's take a look at it and let's see how it works. For which I'm going to go to the SLA section. To go to SLA, go to the admin section, search for service level agreements. And under service level agreement, there will be few default SLAs available out of the box. In addition to that, you can delete, modify, or add new SLAs. So in the SLA section, you can configure criteria that will automatically apply the response and resolution due by times. And we know about it already since we discussed in the previous chapters of the masterclass series. Now let us see how operational hours influences it. So by default, the SLA works between 9 and 6. However, once the option here is enabled, SLA will be, will override the operational hours and it will work on 24 hours clock. Likewise, I can make an SLA work irrespective of holidays and weekends configured in ServiceDesk Plus. So that is the reason why we have to give importance to operational hours, and also you've got an option to configure holidays. Here you can mark all the holidays, and during the holidays SLA will skip the calculation and resume it during the working days. Let's take a look at the departments. By default, when you import users from Active Directory, users department will also be brought into ServiceDesk Plus, and you can configure the user's department head. So this is one of the departments. Let us edit it. And here, department level roles are available. You can provide a department head and also a department approver. These roles are consumed and used for approvals. I'm going to set a sample department head and department approver. Save it. So any users from the facilities, if they raise a request, then automatically approval emails can be triggered to Ajay and Daniel, who are the department head and in charge of this particular department. So this is the first layer by which we group users in the application, ServiceDesk Plus application. The second layer, which is the configurational layer of the application, is site. So this is where I create physical delivery offices. When I import users from Active Directory, sites are automatically fetched from the physical delivery office attribute and users will be grouped under it. Now for each and every site, I can have different set of operational hours, region, time zone, holidays and weekends. So there are three types of configuration with which I can control this. The first is refer, which means the default configuration of operational hours, holidays that I have created in ServiceDesk Plus will be used by the site. However, when offices are in different geographical locations following a different set of configuration, you have still got an option to customize the settings. So for Australia, I'm going to create a custom setting. Let us see how it works. Now I have created the site Australia with custom settings. Now I want to configure the operational hours, which is going to be completely different from the default. So this is the default set of configuration for operational hours. Now under the drop down, since it is a custom site, I get it as an option. Now for Australia, I can choose around the clock or choose a different operational hour. So I'm going to say it's between 8 and 3. From now on, SLA for Australia will work only between 8 a.m. in the morning and 3 p.m. in the evening. Any ticket that is created after 3 p.m., the SLA will start on the next day in the morning at 8 a.m. Likewise, each and every site can be configured with a custom configuration if the related setting is stored as custom. All right. Now, similarly, you have got a custom set for Australia in holidays, and that extends even to business rules and service level agreement. So you can have a default list of business rules and custom list of business rules for the Australia region, and also the service level agreement. So if service level agreement is going to be completely a separate set for Australia, you can maintain and store it here. Now let's take a look at the next set of configuration, which is called reference site. We know that there is a default setting and a custom setting. Now Australia has a custom setting. I want to copy this configuration to Brisbane and other cities, Melbourne in Australia. Meaning I'm creating this particular site as a reference site for all the other cities in the Australian region. And in the US, I want to create New York as a custom site and copy the configuration to the other cities in the US. If you'd like to do that, if you'd like to create local headquarters for every region, it is also possible. Let us see how we can do that. For which, once again, I'm going to go to the sites configuration, and under sites, let me edit Brisbane. Scroll down to the reference settings. Here by default, Brisbane is referring to the default configuration. I don't want to do that. I want to refer to Australia, which is another site. So here I can choose Australia. So instead of referring to the default configuration, now Brisbane will refer to Australia. If I want Brisbane to refer to Malaysia or Singapore, I can still do that. So there will be a regional headquarters, and the configuration of the regional headquarters can be referenced to the rest of the sites in the region. So instead of having one default set of criterion and conditions, you can have multiple reference settings for every region, and that can be consumed by the rest of the sites in the region. So that way, managing and maintaining multiple sites spread across various geographical locations is handled easily with the reference settings in ServiceDesk Plus. Now that we have created sites with all the configuration available, let us see how I can associate technicians to work only on the tickets from a specific site. My idea is to assign an engineer to Brisbane so that he will work only on the tickets that are originating from the Brisbane site. To do that, go to Users, Technicians, edit a technician whom you would like to associate to Brisbane. I'm going to go with the example of Santa. When I edit the technician's profile and scroll down, you have got sites. So this technician is associated to all the sites available in ServiceDesk Plus. I don't want to do that. I'm going to remove everything and associate only Brisbane to him. Oh, I'm really sorry. Brisbane is a reference site. I'm going to do Australia so that it applies for the site. Now, this technician will work only on the tickets that are originating from Australia. So with sites, you can associate technicians, localize the support, and provide support focused to a specific region or site. Now let us see how the technician can be restricted to view only the tickets from the site. We don't want the technician to see all the tickets because he is focused to work only with the tickets originating from Australia. So let's see how we can do that. Once again, let me go to the roles section, and we created front desk engineers, which is a custom role for level 1 engineers. And this role allows the technician to see all tickets, which I don't want to do. Now I'm going to change it to all in associated sites. Save it. Go back to the technician Santa, edit his profile. When I scroll down, I can see that he's been associated to Australia. And the role, I'm going to remove the admin role and provide the test role that I created. Now, when this engineer logs into ServiceDesk Plus, his role restricts him to view the tickets that are originating or associated to his profile. So any ticket that is from Australia, he can see it. The rest of the tickets, he will not have access to it. So that way you can create access groups based on site. So this is the first level of access control that you can achieve with sites and associate technicians to work with a specific site. Now let us take a look at the next level of access control that we can do. That is with support groups. So as I mentioned earlier, support groups are the resolver groups. So you can create a group of specialists based on their tier level or a different department. Sometimes ServiceDesk Plus is used for non-IT needs. Here I have created a support group for facilities. When I edit the group configuration, I can associate the technicians who work on the tickets which are assigned to the group. That way, group of users who work on a specific nature of ticket can be grouped, and also notifications can be set up. So instead of assigning a ticket to a technician, I can now assign a ticket to the group and notify all the group users. So once this rule is enabled, I can choose the technician that has to be notified, and also you've got further additional rules. If a ticket is left unpicked in a group for a certain amount of time, then I can trigger notifications to the group's supervisor. Now we have this requirement. I don't want the facilities ticket to come into the IT queue and then a coordinator has to manually move it. If you'd like to automatically route all the calls related to facilities to a different email address, that is also possible. Here you can configure a group email address for the facilities department. Let me explain you how group email works. ServiceDesk Plus can fetch emails from one mailbox. We all know that. And it can be configured under the mail server settings in the organizational details. Now, if you'd like to route all the facilities ticket to the facilities group, then you have to create another another mailbox that is dedicated to the facilities team. So once the mailbox is created in your mail server, configure the mailbox to forward a copy of an email to the primary ServiceDesk Plus mail address. So all emails that are sent to facilities@xyz.com has to be configured to forward a copy to it@xyz.com. So IT is our primary mailbox. So that way, emails will get into ServiceDesk Plus even though it is addressed to facilities. Now, ServiceDesk Plus is intelligent enough to read the email and identify where it was originally sent to. So based on that information, it will automatically route the ticket to the group facilities. That way you can have different email addresses for different support groups, assign support groups with engineers, and just like site, you can also restrict an engineer's view within the facilities team. So I can restrict his access privilege only within the group to which he is a part of. To do that, once again, we have to go to the roles section, which is under users, roles. So once again, we'll edit the custom role that I built, front desk engineers. This role has the privilege of viewing all the tickets associated to site. I'm going to further reduce it. I'm going to say all in group and assign directly to the technician. Let me save this. Now, once again, I'll go to the example technician that we have been working with, Santa. Edit his profile. So we associated him only to Australia, and with the previous privilege, he can view all the tickets that are originating from the Australian site. Now I'm going to further reduce this privilege. I'm going to say only the facilities tickets in Australia. Now, when Santosh logs into ServiceDesk Plus, he can only view the facilities related ticket because he is part of the facility support group. So that way his view privilege is restricted to a support group under the site Australia. He cannot even view the facilities ticket from New York. So he becomes a local engineer who works only on the facilities ticket that originates from the Australian site. These are different ways by which you can associate technicians to sites, create departments, and also support groups. This configuration will give you granular control over the access permission of technicians, and you can create access control list in the application. Now let us see how you can manage approvals in Service Desk. We know that any requester can become a service request approver. But the problem with providing named users as requesters is the configuration is very cumbersome. Let us take a look at how generally approvers are set up. Go to the admin section, service catalog, and under service catalog, let us take a look at one of the templates. So this is a service request template, and whenever a user submits a ticket with this template, notification has to be triggered. If I go to the workflow section, I've got Santa as the approver. What if Santa leaves the company? Then I have to manually edit the template and modify the approval. If I have got only one template, that is easier, but when I work with hundreds of templates, it becomes a tedious task. That is why we have a different way of doing it. That is with roles. If the CEO role is assigned to Santa, and if I am consuming him as CEO, when he leaves the organization, instead of manually editing every template, I can go ahead to a global configuration and make the changes. That is the whole idea behind creating organizational roles. Let me show you. I'm going to open the admin section in a different tab. Under organizational details, we have provided a new configuration, which is organizational roles. This is where you can create in charges for various departments, sites, region, and also an organizational level role. So here I can assign a user directly to an org role. And save. So now the CEO role is assigned to Santa, and he is consumed in the approval. If at all he leaves the organization, I can directly go to this section, delete, or make the change. So instead of Santa, I can quickly change it to Andrea. So managing the approval matrix in a global location is handled with the organizational role. So it can be a geographical role, organizational role, which applies to the entire organization. It can be to a region, can be to a site, or to department. So when it comes to site, I can have site managers for different sites that I have created. I'm going to go with single site option. Here, for each and every site that is available in the application, I can set up approvers. So any user from Brisbane, if he reports for, requests for a new service, the approval can be automatically routed to Brett. For each and every site, I can create and set up approvers just like this and consume them in the approval section. So with one variable, I have associated these many site managers. So if the template is used by a user in Brisbane, it goes to Brett. If it is used by someone in California, it goes to Derek. So I can use and create one template, publish it to all users, and also have a different set of approval configuration for each and every user. So these are the configuration that I wanted to showcase to you related to user management and also managing a large scale implementation with multiple sites, departments, and support groups. Thank you so much and have a good one.